That's what my daughter says too. Is like she would get so mad, like, why didn't y'all teach us Spanish? And I told when they were young, I was telling Kathy, I said, when Ruthie was first born, I said, I don't speak Spanish, so I was like, I don't know, they're not gonna be able to communicate with me. But when she was like 1 year old, I said, okay, let's just start speaking Spanish to her because I realized it's gonna be just fine. But by then it was too late. She felt like it'd be a lot more trouble, so we didn't. But Ruthie's always been like, why didn't y'all let speak Spanish to me? So when she got her mission call to Spanish speaking, it was like an answer to prayer. And it's nice because my mother-in-law, who speaks Spanish, but her and I can communicate. We've learned after all these years to communicate with my little bit of Spanish or a little bit of English. But now Ruthie can have great conversations with her. That was pretty cool to see. But the rest of my children still don't speak Spanish.
See, that's what I think. I think they should be raised on that language, right? I think that'd be pretty cool. Just because, I mean, we're in America, they're gonna get English. Schools are English. Everything's already English around them, so they're gonna do it. But just raising them on that one in the home, like say Spanish, right? Raising them on that language. That's awesome. And that would be awesome, right? Because then they're just that much further ahead, maybe for later on for mission or a career or something, right?
It's like the Hossos kids, man. They're extremely smart. When they came over here, the Hossos, there's some family we know growing up. And Zanif Hosso was like one of my best friends growing up, and they came over here not speaking any English, getting thrown into I don't even think they had bilingual programs back then, and he was thrown into basically an English kindergarten, but he speaks fluently both languages all throughout his life, and very smart family. Like they're extremely smart, but they didn't have any trouble after. I'm sure they had trouble in the very beginning when they were going to school, but they learned it. They picked it up quick because everybody was speaking English around them.
My kids say the same thing. They wish they said, "Man, you should have taught us Samoan." My first thought was it's not going to be helpful, but just the kids, they say today, man, it's just helpful to know just the heritage. Okay, I didn't think of it that way because when Marcina was waiting for her mission call, she was hoping to go to Samoa or Samoa speaking. But I was hoping she'd get Spanish speaking, and I told her it's because it would be helpful, more helpful for her in her life. But now Kyle is learning Samoan with a friend of one of his friends is his friend of mine too, and they're doing it every week. And I joined them on their call, and they're learning Samoan.
Nice.
I was like, wow, these guys.
That's cool.
And Marcina's been reading. So I think it was 2019. Well, yeah, it was before that because Kyle graduated in 2019. But I think maybe then it was 2018. We were reading the Book of Mormon in Samoan. And Kyle and Marcina, because Kelana was already gone, Kyle and Marcina were doing really good. They were reading the book. And how we read it was you would read. We read it in English, but any word that you see, you translate it on the fly. Nice. So they would read it in English, and they'll see some more the words that they know, and they'll just translate it. They got to a point where they were able to almost translate an entire verse on the fly, reading the Book of Mormon.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I wish I learned Spanish. I'm trying. Well, I haven't been trying hard enough right now.
I think it's cool though. You have Marcina, Ruthie, Courtney, and then I want to say one of their other friends who went Spanish-speaking missions. True. Now, like whenever they get back over there to Idaho in the next few months together, they can all just communicate. If they want to talk about a guy that they're interested in, and he's right in front of them, they can just. Yeah. The other day, yesterday actually, Kethy was saying something about Becca, who doesn't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
My daughter. And then my other daughter, Ruthie, who speaks Spanish, she said, I guess they were talking about going to church and about an activity at church. They were talking about Becca right there in front of her. I was like, did you say that in front of her? She's like, yeah, but it was in Spanish, so she didn't know what was happening. It was a good thing, though, trying to get her to go to an activity.
I think it's when you're raised like speaking those two languages, right? I just think it's like in your brain, right? You're wired to know those two. So when like learning another language, I think your brain somehow picks that up and knows how to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
instead of trying to learn another language in your 40s, you know?
Yeah.
And and that's true. I know exactly, and I tell people, I know exactly when I was really speaking English. So growing up, we kind of learned English growing up a little bit, but not too much, right? It was just, so the way that they do it in Samoa, the school systems, so in primary school, or what they call it, elementary school, we go and we sit in front of a radio at 8 a.m. every morning, and they would have, I will never forget, there was a man and a woman on the radio. We just listened to their voices, and they would ask, they'd say, "Good morning, class," and we'd all say, "Good morning," so and so, and then they go, "How are you today?" And the answer is, "We are very well, thank you." And we said it exactly like that. And it was so crazy because then when I came to America and as I was speaking, someone would ask me, say, "How are you?" I said, "I'm very well, thank you." And I didn't have any variation too much in my voice. I am very well, thank you. And then one time, one of the persons at BOA, they go, "Are you always well?" And I'm like, no. They go, "Every time I ask you, you always say, 'I am very well, thank you.'" And I said, that's what I learned. I learned it was always, because the teacher would always ask on the radio, "How are you today?" And then all of us kids would say, "We are very well, thank you." and so I got to high school, and in high school there's a big sign in my high school. It's called, my high school is a church school, right? And it was owned by the church, and on the top it says "Speak in English." On all these posts, it always says "Speak in English." And we had these things called prefects, and these are maybe the hall monitors, equivalent here in America. And these guys would monitor you, right? And so we were always, and you're not allowed to speak Samoan. So anytime we're hanging out with my friends, we're just talking in Samoan, and we would see the prefect walking towards us, and we'd like quickly change. and this is all we would do. So as soon as the prefect gets close, my friend would say, "How are you?" And I say, "I am very well, thank you." And that's how we did. And the prefect would walk by and roll her eyes or and they know what we're doing, right? And they walk by and they go, and as soon as they walk away, then we just keep talking. But I was in Form 3, so 9th grade. I was in English class, and that's the day I remembered talking in English. We were doing our class. I can't remember what we were doing, but I started not Sunday, but we were talking because we would do the class in English, but when we conversate in Samoan. But that day, my friends and we said a few things in English, and we started talking, like asking questions and talking back and forth in English. I was like, wow, this was amazing. I went home and I said to my mom, I said, "Mom," in Samoan, of course, to her, I said, "Mom, I spoke in English." And she was, "Oh, good. What did you guys do?" I said, "Well, we said more than we are very well." But that was the day I started speaking more consistently in English. And then as when I was in a senior in high school, I was speaking way more English. Like,
Nice.
I communicated in English with my classmates, even when the prefects weren't looking. It was so weird. Now, granted, for 2 years or a year and a half, I went to high school in New Zealand, but for the most part, it's my friends that we associated with. And I realize now, and because people said they don't realize that I really learned to speak English in high school. Because like my mom taught us English.
I was going to ask you, so in home, did you speak English to your parents?
No.
No, okay.
Did your mom speak English though? Did she know how?
She did, yes. My mom is from another country. It's called Rotuma.
Oh, she's not Samoan. Really?
Yeah, my mom learned English and learned Samoan on her mission.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Is she Polynesian?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Rotuma is a whole nother
I didn't know.
country. It's close to Fiji,
Okay.
but they're their own independent country, and it's called Rotuman or Rotuma, and the language is Rotuman.
Gotcha.
So my mom speaks Rotuman fluently,
And Samoan.
and Samoan, and English.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, great.
So would you say it's a blessing for you in your life that you that you learn English?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. My mom used to say to us, if you wanna be successful in life, you need to learn to speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what she told us, right? She said you need to be able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would watch the movies, and oh man,